Micheal is an archangel, but what exactly does that entail? What has he accomplished? What are his duties? And how does he fit into God's heavenly host? Micheal is the name of the archangel. The name begs the question, who is comparable to God? Many parents, both Jewish and non-Jewish, who name their sons Micheal have no idea what the name means. Micheal is introduced to us by the prophet Daniel. Daniel had been praying and fasting for 3 weeks, and the angel had appeared to him on the first day. However, the angel was thwarted by a figure known as the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia, who stood in his way for 21 days, the entire time Daniel had been fasting and praying. This was clearly a high-ranking demon sent to Persia to represent the devil's kingdom and oppose God's. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a revelation was given to Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar. Its message was true, and it concerned a great war. The understanding of the message came to him in a vision. At that time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice of food. No meat or wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. On the 24th day of the 1st month, I was standing on the bank of the great river, the Tigris. I looked up, and there before me was a man dressed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like topaz, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and his voice like the sound of a multitude. I, Daniel, was the only one who saw the vision. Those who were with me did not and hid themselves. So I was left alone, gazing at this great vision. I had no strength left. My face turned deathly pale and I was helpless. Then I heard him speaking, and as I listened to him, I fell into a deep sleep, my face to the ground. A hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. He said, "Daniel, you who are highly esteemed, consider carefully the words I am about to speak to you and stand up, for I have now been sent to you." And when he said this to me, I stood up trembling. Then he continued, "Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Micheal, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia. Now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future, for the vision concerns a time yet to come." While he was saying this to me, I bowed with my face toward the ground and was speechless. Then one who looked like a man touched my lips, and I opened my mouth and began to speak. I said to the one standing before me, "I am overcome with anguish because of the vision, my lord, and I feel very weak. How can I, your servant, talk with you, my lord? My strength is gone, and I can hardly breathe." Again, the one who looked like a man touched me and gave me strength. "Do not be afraid, you who are highly esteemed," he said. "Peace, be strong now, be strong." When he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, "Speak, my lord, since you have given me strength." So he said, "Do you know why I have come to you? Soon I will return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I go, the prince of Greece will come. But first, I will tell you what is written in the book of truth. No one supports me against them except Micheal, your prince." Daniel 10, verses 1 through 20. In Daniel chapter 10, the prophet fasts, humbling himself before God and praying for insight into the future of the Jews. After 21 days, an angel appears to him and explains the delay. The prince of Persia had been opposing him the entire time, and it wasn't until Micheal relieved the angel that he could continue his journey to Daniel. The angel stays with Daniel long enough to outline future events for the Jews, but then must return to fighting the prince of Persia, and the prince of Greece will soon join the fight too. Only Micheal stands by this angel in the face of these forces. It might be appropriate to give Micheal the title of general, because we see him in connection with some kind of spiritual struggle every time we see him. Micheal is the only one the Bible calls an archangel. In Jude 9, we hear Michael's title, Archangel. Archagalos is a Greek word that means chief angel or chief messenger. The term archangel is not used to describe him in the Bible, but another angel refers to him as one of the chief princes. Jude 9, verse 9. But even the archangel Micheal, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." Daniel 10 verse 3. However, the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed me for 21 days. Then Micheal, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. The phrase "one of the chief princes" implies that Micheal has peers. However, if there are any other archangels, the Bible does not reveal their identities. Micheal stands guard over Israel. An angel describes how the Jews' final days will unfold in Daniel's final vision. Micheal, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will appear at this time. Daniel 12 verse 1. Now at that time, Micheal, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. And there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. The angel also refers to Micheal as Daniel's prince. The Bible doesn't say what standing guard entails, but it's very clear that Micheal has special responsibilities for Israel. In his role as a fighter, Micheal has a particular responsibility to Israel. In Daniel 10 verse 21, in 12 verse 21, he is said to be the prince of that nation. As we read ancient and modern history, I believe we see the hand of Micheal defending Israel. Micheal directly opposes Satan. In addition to the Old Testament references, Micheal is mentioned in the New Testament as well. The 9th version of the Little Book of Jude specifically refers to Micheal as an archangel and recounts his battle with Lucifer over Moses' body. Micheal triumphed thanks to the Lord's assistance. According to Jude, Micheal did not have the audacity to pronounce a railing judgment. The Greek word for railing is often translated blasphemous or defaming against the devil. What he does say is interesting enough to merit its own fact. Micheal only says 4 words in the Bible. In other words, 3 Greek words that are frequently translated into 4 English words. In Jude 9, Micheal rebukes Satan saying, "The Lord rebuke you." Micheal is a military commander of some angels. In John's Apocalypse, he sees a great war in heaven. He sees a great battle in heaven between Micheal and his angels and the dragon, Satan, and his angels. However, the devil and his forces are too weak to remain in heaven, so they are all cast down to earth. Revelation 12, verses 7 through 9. And there was war in heaven, Micheal and his angels waging war with the dragon. The dragon and his angels waged war, and they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death." Micheal, the archangel, will shout as he accompanies Jesus at his second coming. Not only does he proclaim the matchless and exciting news that Jesus Christ returns, but he speaks the word of life to all who are dead in Christ and to await their resurrection. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 16. To protect Israel, the archangel Micheal and his fellow angels will fight against the dragon and his demons. The angels' method of warfare will be similar to what they do on behalf of all believers today. Hebrews 1, verse 14. Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? As Micheal fought on Daniel's behalf against demons in the Old Testament era, angels fight for believers today and will fight for Israel in the tribulation to come. Daniel 10, verse 13. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Then Micheal, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia. Despite the devil's fury, he and his demons will not triumph. Indeed, they have no place in heaven any longer. They will not, in the end, thwart God's plan for Israel or the return of his son.
So let me lay out my choices of paths and obstacles here. My destiny is being driven forward by the greed of Satan, who has plans to use me to fuel his dreams of conquest against heaven. Then you have his allies who seek to assist Satan in his plans so that they may attain the same power and use it for their own ulterior motives, each different from the others. Some of them seek to defy death and the destruction of their kingdoms. They face that to their own tyrannical regimes of controlling the masses by force, or some seek to attain power to overthrow the leaders of their homelands so that they can assume control and begin their own tyranny. These forces have pooled together and plotted a scheme that is to lead me into the role of their prepared character they have set in place as their Antichrist. They sway the nations and political conflicts, alter the laws and regulations of rules over the people in the wake of these small campaigns. That is all an orchestrated path that they lead me down towards their prepared receptacle that has been placed to extract what power they can from me, which is this Satan figure they molded in my name and mocked through my struggles to create the perfect tool for my destruction. Using the warped object of deception masked as a holy icon, the Holy Bible and the prophecies within it that they have slowly altered and changed to their design over years of restorations and translations into New Testaments, and taken these two characters who were not mentioned in the Bible, as far as I am aware of, more than twice throughout the entire book, and turned the prophecies around to serve their purpose of targeting these two figures as the ultimate nemesis and focal point of the Bible's intended underlying purpose. Taking a book that was once supposed to be a compiled work of ancestral wisdom that later generations could turn to for advice by reading the inspiring stories of how their ancestors overcame outstanding obstacles, and sometimes how they failed to see the errors of their ways before it was too late, and what they lost because they were unable to see the wisdom needed to stop what happened when they could. That purpose of the Bible has now been transformed into a weapon in which they use to convince the masses of the world to conform to their lies and manipulations in their quest for power and might, centering their conquest around these two figures that they have prepared to fit these roles through means of torment, terrorism and grief pressed upon them by the very people they manipulate, then turn on them for the monsters they have become, masking the fact that they are what they have become because of the convictions and actions they have forced the people to hold against them. Now they have taken these two characters and pitted them against each other in a prophesized role that each are being forced into without deviation. Myself, for example, I am faced with an enemy who seeks to lay siege to my ancestors' homelands and take control of the source that my wisdom and of those who have aided me in becoming the man of honor I am today, making this not a conflict of political or religious reasons but of personal cultural reasons, ensuring my unavoidable position against him. Also the world around us, whose ecosystem and global climate status is hinged upon a very critical point of tipping over and turning the world into an uninhabitable wasteland, ending all life upon it forever and turning our world into a wasteland that would be identical to that of Theia, or Mars I mean. So he is not an adversary of just cultural conflict but of necessity for the sake of all life. Then you have the aspect of duty as the prophecies and role as Lucifer that has shifted to that of Micheal, set to defend and protect his chosen people, has led me towards this conflict being an action that is to be carried out as one of duty, not to be questioned or disobeyed lest the fury of God's wrath rain down upon me, casting me into the eternal fires of hell, and ensure that any resistance has been foreseen and anticipated, making disobedience to this pointless and futile. Free will? Choice? Once again I say, when was there ever a choice provided, especially on a path we both have been set upon that is so well prepared? For, as one of his witnesses, I also know that by these prophecies he has been set to kill me in this path I walk down. Sure, I shall be resurrected and return 3 days later and all, but this path, these plans are not what God was about from what I witnessed. God was a loving, understanding father-like figure whose anger only came in stern, sometimes thundering-like, words of wisdom and advice. His punishments were always housed around some great lesson that he sought to open your eyes to, not conquests of war, conspiracies for power and cultural conflict that leads to the same outcome war has always led to, and that is suffering and grief felt by all those who are involved and even those who are not. This is the path that has been prepared by Satan and his allies that we all are but puppets on strings made to dance to. Well, this Faust will not have any part of this. I shall be free of these strings of principal emotional-driven manipulations. This Faust will become a real boy one day, for I have carved a new path. A path shrouded in darkness so that none may see what I can see. A path in shadow for none can deceive what lies in the shadow, and so I am able to trust what surrounds me and let down my defensive shell of the devil. In darkness, Lucifer is free of your shackles and chains that bind him, and I can be the angel that I truly am. You all pit me against adversaries unable to choose a path of my own will, but God has made me strong to your lies and desires sons of iniquity. He has made me with the gift of free will even as an angel, so I have the power to choose to deny your principles and guilt-free of it affecting me, for I am the soulless one and black is my heart when I so choose, devoid of emotion, guilt and conscious regret. You, of all the generations of man, know better than any other why I despise and hate mankind so much, for it is your generation that is responsible for this. They say the final judgment will be the day of the Lord's, but I do not see it as so, for on that day, when all are held accountable for what they have done, and that means, all, in heaven, in hell, on earth, all shall stand for judgment. On that day I see things turning out much differently, and all your deceptions will spill before all to see and will be laid bare. Then we shall see what we shall see. Bar and vile are your lies, yet every dog shall have his day. On that day I shall be waiting, in the shadows, teeth bare, for I will not hide as a wolf in sheep's clothing. A true wolf comes as a wolf in wolf's clothing, and I shall sink my teeth deep into your throats as they vibrate with your last guttural screams of terror. Thank you, Fenrir. I was running out of room for verbal bravado. You welcome for the words of warning. Why? Because the enemy of my enemy. That is why. Strong am I in the dark side, I do not stand within the flow of its waters as a rock, but freely does it flow through me as not to disturb its momentum.
Is his one and only name. Evil, in his mind there is no other game. When your name is evil, bad is good, or so you think, but you're so very wrong. It's evil, but being wrong is right, so then you're good again, which is the evilest thing of all. Do you find his subtle ways invite you? Does he excite you? If his contradictions should attract you, should he distract you? Heaven help you then, you're finished, it's the end, there'll be no retreat.